Welcome to A Walk in the Woods, Hiking New Hampshire. Get ready to embark on an educational adventure as we uncover the hidden gems of the Granite State. Join us as we hike through dense forests, summit craggy peaks, and discover the rich history and natural beauty that New Hampshire has to offer. Whether you're an experienced outdoors enthusiast or a novice explorer, our journey will teach and inspire you. So lace up your boots and experience the thrill of hiking in New Hampshire like never before. This is A Walk in the Woods.
Hello everybody, this is Lionel again. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back, or if this is your first time, hopefully it won't be your last. I'm Lionel Chute, the Director of Natural Resources for Sullivan County, and today we're going to do something a little different. The first 2 days, our first 2 episodes, we were on a trail. The first time was Barrett Trail, and the second time was Glidden Ridge Trail. And this time, we are gonna bushwhack. We're gonna go off trail and take a look at the Stowell Natural Area. We are on the Stowell property right now. This is a 98-acre forest. Wasn't always a forest. The county got it, I think, in 1921. It was a farm abandonment, which was very common. But this was a big farm, a big dairy farm, I believe, run by the Stowell family. And if you look around, you can see that there's forest all around us. But it wasn't like that. 60, 70 years ago, this was all field, probably a very large field, maybe 100 acres or 50 acres anyway. And the cellar hole is right here. So let's take a look at that. So come on over here, and you can see that hopefully you can make out that we've got a big square cellar hole with a central island here. So this would have been the chimney coming up, and the lintel, which is the front doorstep, was probably right there. You see that nice big rock over there. And then if you keep going this direction, a little bit downhill, I want to show you something else. We have a series of buildings here. This is a small outbuilding of some sort, and a big barn right down there. So this is the Stowell Farm as it grew back, and the county's had it for nearly 100 years, or maybe a little over 100 years now, actually. And it's been managed over the years for timber, but more recently, when we did our forest management plan, we learned that it's got some a really nice section on the south end, which we've now reserved as the Stowell Natural Area. We call it the Mature Pine Natural Area, and I'll show you why. I've just come down a little bit from where that cellar hole is, and you can see that we are on an old town road with stone walls on both sides. Everything's very precisely measured. They were really good at laying out these old roads. This road went goes right through the property today, and it's no longer used at all. But there's a beautiful stone culvert on the other side that's still in great shape. So we are on an old road right now, and we're not really on a trail. So I would just ask that if you come out here to Stowell and you want to look around, make sure you know what you're doing, have a compass, or be with somebody who's really familiar with bushwhacking. We're going to make a hiking trail here through the natural area, and then it'll be a lot easier for folks. But for today, we're going to do it old school style. So we've called this the mature pine natural area because we've got some really beautiful pine trees out here, like the one right behind me. That tree's got to be 100, 125, maybe even 150 years old. And it's at least 3.5 feet thick. And it's one of a couple hundred like that in the natural area. The natural area is basically from where I'm standing behind me, the south end of the Stowell property. But it's got a little bit of a bump out on the right side here because there's a nice forested wetland, a small forested swamp up here, and we're going to start there. So what we're doing is we're following the markings for the natural area, and if you did see the Barrett Trail, that was a natural area as well, and we have the same marker, little metal marker, for all of our natural areas. So if you were to try to come back out here, one strategy would be to find one of these and then find the next one and so on, and that'll keep you in the natural area. So if you do spend time on county lands, you're going to see these red markers, and this is our boundary line. So we used to use paint, and I kept reading on the back, you know, warning, causes brain damage, and yeah, it was making me feel dizzy, and so I talked to some people, and a lot of folks have moved away from painted bounds to metal bounds. So we did as well. So we've got aluminum nails, and we deliberately keep them out to allow the tree to grow. So this should be all right for 10, 20 years. But anyway, if you're out on county lands and you see a red mark, that's going to be our boundary line. So here we are in a small forested wetland, and a forested wetland is often called a swamp. And you can tell there are many terms for wetland systems. There's marshes, seeps, flarks, bogs, swamps, and they all go back to the kinds of plants that are growing in them, and the way the hydrology works and the acidity. So this is a swamp, a forested swamp, and it's kind of special because we've got at least 2 black ashes. Do you see these trees here? These about 20 feet tall. These are Fraxinus nigra, black ash. That is the very important basket-making tree that the Native Americans used for thousands of years to make their baskets. It's an extremely pliable wood, makes a great basket. Unfortunately, all of our ashes here in New Hampshire are being attacked right now by a new insect called the emerald ash borer. And so I don't actually expect these trees to survive in the next couple of years. But people are very much working on that, and the hope is that when the beetle, the emerald ash borer, comes in and kind of wipes out the bigger trees, that they in turn will get wiped out by a lack of food, and there'll be a lull. And during that lull, if there's enough seed in the ground that can emerge and do its thing without getting attacked, we might not lose all of our ash. But it is unfortunately a big thing going on right now with our ashes. But right now we've got 2 nice live black ashes here in this little black ash swamp. So we're still in the forested wetland, and the thing about plants is they're very affected by moisture and acidity and temperature and elevation. So a wetland often has more diversity of plants than a non-wetland because there's an unlimited supply of water. And there's quite a few plants here that are fun to look at. We've got gold thread, Coptis grunlandica, which we talked about on the Barrett Trail. It's got a natural sedative, that bright gold end that you can chew on, and it numbs out your mouth. There's also Dalabarda, false violet, which has a very fuzzy violet-like leaf. It's not actually a violet, but it's called false violet. And we've got a whole bunch of Tiarella cordifolia, which is foam flower. That's a nice, pretty white flower in June, kind of a fluffy looking thing. And then just an amazing array of different mosses. This beautiful feathery moss. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of the different mosses, but I can see at least 10 different species right here. And then not least of all, we've got all of these little fir balsams coming up, which is pretty cool. It tells us that we're acidic and that it's more of a softwood site than a hardwood site. And they're called fir waves. They tend to go every 40 years or so, where the fir trees get wiped out by ants and all sorts of diseases. They're not really looking to live forever compared to spruces. So they'll die out en masse, but they have already put down an incredible amount of seed. And so that seed, once the parent trees die, there's more light on the forest floor, and we get this wave of a whole bunch of little Christmas trees. These are the same species as our Christmas trees. So we're going along the line, heading down to a bigger wetland system, but I just wanted to point out that we're in a beautiful stand of hemlock. This is a almost pure hemlock stand, and you'll notice that on the ground there's virtually no vegetation, just a few ferns and some club mosses. This is what they call princess pine. Back in the day, in the Victorian times, everybody was grabbing this and draping their fireplaces with it for the holidays. And to the point that they actually had to make it illegal in some places. People don't do it anymore, and I don't think there are any laws against it. But princess pine is one of about 10 or 15 lycopodiums, club mosses that we have here in New Hampshire. And the club mosses are fascinating because we know that about 300 million years ago, the club mosses were much, much bigger. They were trees, 40-foot tall trees. So while the dinosaurs were walking around, they were walking underneath these club mosses. So for some reason, these plants decided to get smaller over time, and now our lycopodiums are just ground covers. But it's fascinating to think that they used to be trees. Good. So we've got this barbed wire here. You see, it's here. It's actually grown way in. Like the tree was probably this big when they put this wire on it. And I had a friend once that was dating these. He had a book, and it would tell you, based on the barb shape, when it was made. So there are people that are starting to collect these, a little piece of barbed wire, because they know when it was made. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's more evidence that this was a working farm, probably pasture land, all the way out here, and you'd never know it looking around elsewhere. But look what's over my head. See this? And then follow it back, and it's just hanging on by a thread where it broke off over there. That's what they call a widow maker. Here's another lycopodium. So there's sort of two different styles. There's the ones that just come up in a single piece that we were calling princess pine before. There's shining club moss and stiff club moss that look like this. But there's also this kind, which are called the tree club mosses. And they really look like little trees, but this is as big as they get. And you can see that these are mature because they have a fruit pod on top. Anytime you see fruit, you know you're looking at a mature plant. And so these are strobiles, and the seeds are absolutely tiny, just like dust. There's probably 100,000 seeds in this strobile right here. So we're down now at the south end of the property, and there's this beautiful stream that comes through. It's got tremendous integrity ecologically, and it's going to flow for another half mile or so until it ties into Chase Brook in Unity, and then Chase Brook in turn ties into the Little Sugar River, which ties into the Connecticut River. So it's part of a much larger wetland system. But this is a beautiful wild stream, and we're going to see where all this water is coming from. So we're almost at the end of the stream into the wetland, and this is really a beautiful spot. If you look behind me, you can see that there's logs right in the stream, and that's a great thing. Back in the day, they used to always clear those out and make room, but they didn't realize that that was empowering the stream, making the water more aggressive, more erosive. And now what they're doing is they're actually bringing wood into the stream, and there are people that are dropping trees into streams. It's really valuable for fish habitat. The fish require the riffles. The effects that it has on providing places for fish to live is invaluable. And so this is just a beautiful example of nature doing its thing, putting wood in the stream, and then behind that we've got some nice hemlocks, just a great spot. So here we are, we're just where the wetland is draining into the stream we've been walking on, and let's go and see what it looks like. Once we're here, it gets better. It's usually drier than this, but it's been such a wet year, I'm not surprised. So here we are at the confluence of the two systems, and what we've got here is an open wetland, non-woody for the most part, which is often referred to as a marsh, as opposed to a swamp, which is typically filled with shrubs and possibly trees as well. So these open systems are full of water, and what we've got here is a whole lot of spirea, which is Spirea tomentosa, also called steeple bush because it's got a steeple-like flower. This is a beautiful purple flower in the summer. And there's a whole bunch of grasses here as well, which are fantastic for wildlife. So these wetlands are very important for a variety of wildlife. As you would expect, the water-dependent ones, the amphibians, the salamanders, the frogs, also reptiles, the snakes and the turtles really love living here. And there's small mammals as well, shrews and moles, voles, mice, bog lemmings, which we have here in Unity as well. And then when you have all those little mammals, you're going to have all the things that eat those little mammals. So bobcats, owls, hawks. And so wetlands make really important wildlife habitat. And this is a great example with virtually no invasive species. Sometimes you'll see a place like this just loaded with reed canary grass or some other bad actors, but not this one. This is a beautiful, intact wetland. Another way to evaluate a natural system, especially forested, is if the plants below are the same as the plants above. That tells you that there's a certain amount of stability going on. And that is definitely the case here. So we've got a whole lot of young pine, and then we've got larger pine, and then we've got overstory pine as well. And so this is a perpetuating system, pine over pine. It's not changing right now. But if you look out in the wetland, you can see there's some older pine, dead snags, dead trees of pine. And so that's telling us that not that long ago, that was more of a forested area than it is today. The logical explanation for that is that the water level has risen. And that makes sense because we know that since 1971, this part of New England has become 50% wetter than it was historically. So we are definitely wetter than we were. And seeing this evidence here, this tree that was probably fine 30 years ago, now completely dead with other stumps and snags around, is saying that we're wetter than we used to be. So here we are on the other side of the wetland, and there's some really nice pines here, probably because it was really tough to get to. It wasn't worth trying to log these out. But again, we've got a lot of integrity ecologically here. You know, a lot of times when you see pine in New Hampshire, you're really seeing more of a land use history than anything ecological. A lot of the places where we have pine stands were pasture 100 years ago. And Another name for this species of pine, this white pine, eastern white pine, is old field pine, because the seeds are very good at landing in a field, going between the blades of grass. They don't dry out the way a lot of other seeds do. They can persist long enough to germinate and put down a radicle and get going. And so, again, a lot of the places where you'll see stands of white pine are really just a temporary phenomena. They're going to come back to hardwoods. They don't usually continue as pine for multiple generations, unless they're on a deep sand. But in this particular spot, we've got a really nice example of pine and hemlock. We've got hop hornbeam, and you don't see something different happening in the understory. You see the same thing happening in the understory that's happening in the overstory. Whenever I am in a place like that, I'm very aware of it, and it makes me feel good. So here we are, and we've got this beautiful snag here. And when I was young, I didn't appreciate snags at all. I thought they were ugly and just reminded me of death. But that is not true at all. These are actually very, very important for wildlife. And a tree like that is especially important because it goes up so high into the canopy that a hawk can really have a wonderful vantage point year-round. A pileated woodpecker can come and carve out a cavity, and then that cavity becomes home to upwards of 35 species of birds and mammals as well. So snags are really very valuable. And in time, I came to really appreciate them, and now I see them as kind of works of art, sort of natural art. And it's impressive how long some of these can stay up. I don't know how long this has been here, but it could easily be 10, 20 years that it's been dead, standing. So this is a really nice spot. We're very close to the edge of the property, going this direction. But again, they probably never bothered with it because it's so close to the wetland and very rocky behind us. So it just got left behind. So this is a little patch of almost old growth. We've got trees like this pine here, which has got to be 150 years, 200 years old. Pines can go 300 years. They can also get much taller. They can get to 150 feet tall. Some of the tallest trees, tallest eastern white pine in New England are located very close to here in Claremont. Another wonderful place to see old growth white pine is the Mohawk Trail State Forest down in Charlemont, Massachusetts. But if we leave these guys alone, they're just going to get bigger and taller and more majestic, and future generations can have old growth right here in Unity, New Hampshire.